Hey Okabe, how's it going? Oh, still running after my ear. I stuck my hand against the wall of the Bronze workshop to catch my breath. There's no sign of Mayuri. I'd gone to May Queen and to any shop I could imagine her visiting and had no luck. She's crying she's not gonna go to a public area. Hello? And Maho came back and she was out of breath too. The panic was threatening to make me lose control. Where did you go, Mayuri? I'd asked Daru to stay behind and call all of her friends and people she knew.
Okarin, それがどうした？電話つながらないんだよ。
マユリなら俺も何度もかけてみたが電源を切ってるみたいで。
違うんだ。マユシだけじゃなくて他のどこにもつながらない。つうかずっとスマホが圏外になったままでさ。
なんだって。
Yeah, I got no signal either. I took out my phone.
俺のも圏外だ。
私もだわ。
What the fuck? The lava never suffered from bad signal before. We went to the roof and even tried holding our phones up to the sky, but the result was the same. Have you tried turning it on and off again?
外に出ても繋がらないわ。
Dario looked for news on the internet. Thankfully, the internet connection was still active. There's an article on the top page of Taboo talking about large-scale cell phone service outage. I wonder if that's good old Russians cutting cell phone lines.
つうか、秋葉原一帯の基地局が全キャリア故障？
全キャリアってそんなことありえるの
？It didn't seem possible to me, not under normal circumstances anyway. The events of a year ago in the Alpha World line flashed through my mind. That night, when Mayuri was mercilessly killed and all the safety I'd ever believed in was stripped away, that night, when all the pain began, started with a bomb threat at Akihabara Station that had shut down the train system.
人為的な工作。
Something terrible was about to engulf Akihabara. That was the feeling I had. I tried my best to fight off the flashback. Now wasn't a time to be scared. I needed to find Mayuri. I couldn't leave her alone out there. I gritted my teeth to fight off all the trauma I was carrying and raised my head.
ダル、ネットは生きてるんだよな。
あ、うん。だから LINE 経由でルカシやアマネシとは連絡取り合ってる。
Okay, then they should be willing to help look for Mayuri.
もう一度辺りを探してくる。
待った。実はもう一つ気になることが。電波障害のことをアットちゃんで調べようとしたらさ、現在進行形でお買い手がクラックされてて、そのクラッキングしてるやつがさ、ほら。
A term used to describe actions such as illegally accessing a network-linked computer or modifying its data, often confused with hacking, but originally hacking was described as using an investigating piece of software. Cracking, however, refers to a malicious, unauthorized access. Most times when the term hacking is used by the media, this is what they actually mean. It's because the media are too fucking lazy to look up shit. Doru brought up the channel page on his screen for me to see. I wondered why it could possibly matter, but I decided to take a look anyway. Oops. Saliere's neighbor. That was the nickname I used to make contact with Curry Gohan. I decided to leave the explanation for later and clicked on the thread. It was all comments by a single person. Looks like she got fucked. It It appears that we twins will now temporarily driven from the place where we belong. So I may not be able to come back here anymore. Our Father in heaven has developed a way to force open our most secret places. Now we shall become good children, his children. We cannot tell lies, and thus we will be forced to tell him of the secrets of controlling time and who those secrets lie. It is a great sorrow to me that I cannot protect these secrets. I had hoped we could be good friends, but this is probably goodbye. So lastly, I'd like to pass on a message to the person I respect the most. Tell her that she was the real Amadeus. The first comment had gone up an hour ago. After that was just endless strings of meaningless numbers and letters.
これはどういうこと？
Maho was looking at the screen from the side and evidently sensed that something was amiss from the text. I answered her.
アマデウスだ。
え？
こいつはアマデウスのクリスなんだよ。
Was?
クリスに何かがあった。
This was some kind of message. She was trying to contact
時を
with me.
司る
With
秘
it.
密。
タイムマシンじゃね？
Yeah, they ended up being able to crack open her black box in a sense.
タイムマシンの情報が誰かに漏れたのか。
つうか、なんでアマデウスがタイムマシンの情報知ってんの？オカリン喋ったん？
Did I? I didn't think I'd told her when I was a tester, but there's no time to think about that now.
ピアジョさん、アマデウスにアクセスできるか。
規則違反になるけど、そんなこと言ってる場合じゃなさそうね。橋田さん、その PC 借りていい？
Maho took Daru's seat and used his PC to access the Brain Science Institute's computer. She put in her ID Saliere and her password. She pushed the enter key, but Amadeus didn't appear.
いつもと違うわ。どういうこと？
Confused, she typed a series of commands into the PC with a speed that rivaled Daru's. But no matter what she did, the Amadeus program didn't appear on her screen. When she'd finished accessing every server at the Institute, she stared at the computer and bit her lip.
こんなバカなことって。
どうした？
ないの。アマデウスのプログラムが記憶データごとどこにも存在していない。
Just like the message from Guri Gohan.
誰？ハッキングしろ。脳科学研究所だけじゃなく、ビクトル・コンドリア大学にあるデータを全部こじ開けてくれ。サーバー。
オキドキ。
Okay, you're not gonna find anything.
ヒアジョさんも協力してくれ。頼む。
ええ。
But the answer was the same. Not only with the Amadeus Kurisu, but the Maho as well, were nowhere to be found on the Victor Crondia servers. There was no trace of them. Their very existence had been erased.
どこか別の場所に移されたとか？
そんなの無理だわ。アマデウスシステムに関してそんな管理者権限を持ってるのはレスキネン教授だけよ。
レスキネン教授。
He's a good boy, though. My mind flashed back to the message from Kuri Gohan. Who was the Our Father in Heaven, whom Kurisu had spoken of? If Amadeus considered anyone a father, it would be obviously Leskinen.
まさかレスキネン教授が。
憶測で物を言わないで。それよりも教授の ID とパスがクラックされたと考える方がよっぽど現実的よ。
Totally.
レスキネン教授に連絡をつける方法はあるか？
Not with your phones down. Fucking email him. Don't know if he has his email open right now. There's no way we couldn't contact him by phone, and there was no way to tell when he'd see his email, seen an email, or if he'd respond. He's a professor; he'd respond. Maho was thinking hard, but it didn't seem like she was having any luck. We were getting nowhere. I was concerned about Mayuri, but I couldn't ignore the danger that was right in front of me.
とりあえずラジカンへ行ってくる。クリスの警告通りなら狙われるのはあそこだ。
僕も行く。
お前とヒアジョーさんはここで情報収集だ。マユリが戻ってくるかもしれないから。ただし何かあったらすぐに逃げろよ。
I gave my orders and ran out of the lab towards Radicon. Hey, Suza. Suza hit the play button on her smartphone's video display. The video was heavily compressed and covered in static, but she recognized the person that appeared. It was a face that she'd known her whole life, a face that had been with her both in her past and her present. The man who she still remembered holding her up in the air as a child. She was probably about 35 in the video. Hey, Daru.
やあ、鈴葉、元気かい？父さんだよ。こちらは2025年だ。いろいろなことを君に託してしまって本当に申し訳なく思う。許してくれ。このムービーメールが届いたということは、君はいや、君とマユシはシュタインズゲートへの道をまた一つ見つけてくれたということだ。つまり計画は次の段階に移行したわけさ。なぜ最初から全部指示しなかったのかと君は怒るかもしれないな。でも指示しなかったんじゃないんだ。できなかったんだよ。君が出発した世界線の僕はこれから話すオペレーションを計画していなかったはずだからね。もう気づいているかもしれないが、君とマユシの選択によって世界線はまた少し変動したんだ。つまり僕も君が出発した世界線とは違う別の世界線上の橋田至るということになる。でも鈴、どうか勘違いしないでほしいんだ。僕はどんな世界線においても娘ラブだからね。
I mean, I wouldn't think you wouldn't.
ちなみにどうだい？比べてみて。
Oh, Jesus.
僕は最近筋トレを始めたんだけどさ。
Good.
なる。くだらないこと言ってないで。さっさと作戦内容を話せ。
Thanks, Okabe.
まったくだわ。どうせまた三日坊主で終わるんだから、どうでもいい報告はしないで。僕ができる時間が終わったにゅ。
Yo, the king's all there.
まあまあ、そうせかすなって。つうことで、このムービーメールの本来の目的に移ろう。オペレーションアークライトの詳細を伝える。これは本当に一瞬のミスも許されないギリギリの戦いになる。心して聞くんだ。いいね。
Yeah. Shizop paused the video there. If he was telling her to pay attention, it must be important. If she was going to memorize it all, she needed to calm down. To be honest, getting a video from her dad in 2025 had made her really excited. It felt like her father was telling her that the plan she'd come up with on her own was the right one. That's why she needed to pay careful attention. Mayuri was standing by herself, typing something into her phone as fast as she could. When the video had arrived, she told Mayuri that they may have to leave for the past today. There must have been some reason that the video was sent today at this time. That's how it seemed to Suzuha.
何してるの？あ、すずさん。どう？今日出発することになりそう？
Maybe.
作戦概要はこれから確認するつもり。そっか。あのね、もし今日出発するってなったら、マユシーは行方不明になっちゃうわけでしょ？心配かけたくないから、お父さんとお母さんと、おかりんおじさんくらいには直接伝えられる時間があればいいけどね。
She'd be done going over the mission, decide on a course of action by sunset, probably.
おかりんにもメール書いたから大丈夫。
Mayuri smiled and nodded. There was no more tears in her eyes, but you could still see wet lines drawn down her soft pink cheeks.
なんだか恥ずかしいから。でもね、せっかく書いたメールだけど送れないかもしれないなーって、今ちょっと困ってたところなのです。なんで？電波圏外になってるんだ。場所が悪いのかな？圏外
Suza looked at the screen of Mayuri's phone. There wasn't a single bar on the antenna.
おかしい。この場所ならいつだって電波は入ってた。
Suza took out her phone and double-checked.
私のもだ。
When she saw that Mayuri was using a different cell carrier than her, she frowned.
嫌な予感がする。
Yeah. She told Mayuri to hide behind the time machine and silently moved up against the iron door leading to the stairs. She opened it a crack, taking care not to let it creak. She looked inside the building. It was quiet as ever. There was nothing on the floor below but a room for events and some staff rooms. So on weekdays like this, it was always quiet.
気のせいか。
She tilted her head sideways as she softly tried to close the door. Oh my god. How? And Mayuri screamed. She turned around just in time to see armed agents in camouflage jumping over the fence. Oh my god. One of them grabbed Mayuri.
外壁をよじ登ってきたのか。
And no one noticed this? Susanna deeply regretted her mistake. She was well aware that someone could try to climb up the walls. But the video from her dad had made her so excited she'd lowered her guard. There were about 30 men, all carrying small assault rifles. While Mayuri was their hostage, Suzaha couldn't do anything. One of the men gave her an order in a cold voice. I can't guarantee the girl's safety anyways. Okay, well, you make a fair point with that. He pulled Mayuri close and put the gun up to her head, then flipped off the safety. She had no choice but to obey. Suzaha took the gun out of her holster and put it on the ground, then took a pose where she couldn't resist.
喋らないで。こいつらいざとなれば本気で姉さんを殺すよ。私は大丈夫だから。
From the way they moved, she could easily tell that they were veteran professionals. That meant that they were certainly after the time machine, and probably well aware that only Suzaha could operate it. That Suzaha decided meant that they wouldn't kill her if they didn't have to. The man who'd spoke to her first was probably the leader. Knelt down next to her, she was searched roughly to make sure she wasn't carrying any other weapons. Yeah, you'd also shoot me if you had the chance. They took the other small pistol she carried for emergency, as well as several different kinds of knives. Who's target 1? No, probably Okabe. The leader spoke to the group of men gathering around the time machine. Oh, the time machine. Several of the men had gone inside the time machine as well. That's right, she had it open. Leaving the hatch open it had been Suza's own mistake, but still, it upset her to see them inside the time machine. It clicks on to life. The leader kicked her with the heel of his boot. I don't doubt it. When she stood up, her hands were handcuffed behind her back. They prodded her from behind to move next to the time machine.
生体認証だな。
そうだ。ただし、私の静脈や指紋をコピーしても無駄だ。
Are you sure about that?
手を切り落としたり、目玉をくり抜いたって認証には使えない。2036年のシステムはそんなに間抜けじゃない。
The men in camo seemed aware of everything she said. None of them seemed surprised or irritated.
教授はどうした？
The leader asked the man who was pointing the gun at Mayuri.
現在こちらに向かっているところです。
I wish Leskinen was good. Why couldn't he be a good boy?
目標1は目標2とセットだ。洗脳しないと無理だと伝えろ。
Suzawa gritted her teeth when she heard the word brainwashing. She'd seen many of her friends in Valkyrie undergo this cruel procedure, then beat back as spies before turning into vegetables. The leader turned toward Suzawa.
洗脳の行き着く先は分かっているはずだ。教授は薬などは使わない。直接脳をいじられることになる。そうなる前に素直に我々に協力した方が利口だと思う。
教授か。
Where she'd come from, an old doctor with that name had led a brainwashing team that had attempted to destroy Valkyrie. Suzawa hated him more than anyone else. They hadn't used drugs either. It was safe to assume that both professors were the same person.
わかった。
Are you kidding me? She nodded.
言うことを聞く。だが、これじゃ無理だ。
Suzawa jangled the cuffs behind her back.
手錠は外す。ただし抵抗すればそっちの女が死ぬ。
There was still a gun pointed at Mayuri's head. Even if she tried to resist, it would be impossible to save Mayuri from this many professional soldiers. When she went inside the cockpit, she used her biometrics to bypass the lock and brought up the control console. Lights came on all across the machine and she could hear a low rumbling.
よし降りろ。あとは我々が調査する。
あんたたちに理解できるとは思えないけどね。
Have fun. As Suzawa left the cockpit, the leader turned his gaze toward a peculiar cluster of men, which seemed to be engineers. That was the moment she was waiting for. Her hand had wandered below the console just a moment when she left the cockpit. She'd hidden some knives there. Yeah, this isn't going to be good. Without making a sound, she threw it at the leader. Oh, he's dead. The knife pierced his throat. He went down so quickly he didn't even he hadn't even had time to scream. She quickly readied another knife and darted between the men in camo. Her target was the man pointing a gun at Mayuri's head. She dropped her hips low to the ground. In an instant, she moved behind him and slit his throat. Is no one actually just paying attention to anyone? Blood poured out onto an astonished Mayuri, but there was no time to worry about her. She grabbed its rifle and fired a few shots to force them to the ground, then grabbed Mayuri's hand and ran behind the machine. Okay. There's something... I must have... Wait. Fucking backlog. Darted between the men in camo. Okay, she dropped a... Okay, so she killed the dude holding a gun to his head. Or her head. But the other guys just didn't see her? Or just turned to fire at Mayuri and Suzawa? Why'd they get down? The plan had gone well so far, but she had seriously underestimated how well trained these men were. The second in command quickly moved to the front and worked to reestablish control. All she had was a knife and a gun she'd stolen, and she needed to protect Mayuri, a non-combatant. She was still forcing more than 25 active enemies, facing more. Yeah, she'd be fucked. Whatever the right way to get out of this was, she couldn't find it. All they had to do is just swarm her, and then she's fucked. The time machine was still active. She couldn't escape because she couldn't leave it there. Because she only has however many rounds are in the gun. One of the men fired several rounds toward her, each bouncing off the side of the machine. Oh. Good old non-combatants. And then Mayuri's head flew back as if she'd been struck. A spurt of blood came out. Her cute face was turning blood red. One of the rounds had grazed her after it had ricocheted. She clutched herself with her arms, and her expression was completely blank. Her tiny body was shaking. Suzaha couldn't blame her. She fired back at the enemy, but they kept drawing closer. The time machine's maintenance hatch was right in front of her. When she saw that it was there, she visualized her last option in her mind. No. That's not good. If she did that, all of her plans would be ruined. The path to Steins Gate would be forever closed. But that didn't mean she was cold-blooded enough to sacrifice Mayuri here. If the world lines were going to converge, maybe Mayuri wouldn't die here at all. But what her father had said during the video message bothered her.
もう気づいているかもしれないが、君とマユシの選択によって世界線はまた少し変動したんだ。つまり僕も君が出発した世界線とは違う別の世界線上の橋田至るということになる。
Which meant that Suzaha had no proof that Mayuri would be alive in 2036 now. Had the world line really changed? Of course, for the sake of Operation Arclight, she hoped it had. But that meant she wouldn't be able to move from this place. The worst case scenario, that would be the men taking the time machine. They could turn the world line into something even worse than the one Suzaha had experienced. It might become a world line where not only Mayuri's life wasn't safe, but Daru's wasn't either. If that was going to happen, she had to make her choice fast. Can you just close the hatch? She carefully she had kept a careful eye on the men, and as soon as she saw an opening, she opened the maintenance hatch's biometric lock. She could see part of the engine, which was still going off, giving off a quiet rumble. She turned her gun sights on it. Fortunately, the unit had created the curved black hole still wasn't active. Even if she blew up the machine here, it wouldn't cause serious damage to the space-time continuum. As soon as she saw that, she went to pull the trigger. And Mayuri's voice stopped her. Do you want to be shot instead? I mean, I'm kind of with Suzaha. You're stuck between 25 people shooting at you, and they're gonna take the time machine. You've already been hit. Mayuri had stopped her once before, and once again she hesitated for just another instance. On the battlefield, that instant can decide your fate. She took a quick look around again, and then she froze. Ah. Mixed in with the men in camo was a girl in a dark motorcycle suit and helmet. Great. Was it Kagari who had leaked this place's location to them? She was well aware of Kagari's ability after their two battles. If she wasn't completely in control of herself, she'd be killed instantly. She talked to herself. How many would she have to take with her in order to give Mayuri a chance to escape? Right now, the only thing she could afford to think about was getting Mayuri back to Okabe Rintaro. But just when she'd made her decision, she felt Kagari staring at her, or more precisely, the blood dripping down Mayuri's forehead. And just after that, Kagari did something she hadn't expected at all. Not me, it's them. There's a scream. No, it was a howl of an enraged beast. And then the slaughter began. They're not firing back? Kagari grabbed the second-in-command's head with her left hand and with her right, and she steadied her rifle, and after she fired, there was very little left of his head. The rest of him dropped to the ground. shoot her!
なんだ何をしている
Like, I just shoot her fucking instantly. You just kill your second in command. What are you gonna do? Just let her do nothing? She slammed the piece of tattered flesh that had once been the man's head into the ground, and with no warning at all, she left from one screaming man to another. She fired a gun into every one of them. Shoot your Suzo, you should probably shoot her. Get free shots off her. Even with her targets were already soaked in a sea of blood, she kept firing into their limbs that were blown apart into unrecognizable rags. Some of them tried shooting her to protect themselves, but no matter where she was struck, Kaguri didn't even flinch. What? Oh, there's someone else dead. When her magazine ran dry, she drew forth the long military-style cleavers, holding one in each hand. She used them in her military combat training to slaughter anyone she saw. Their entrails were scattered all over the twilight rooftop, covering her whole body in blood and bits of flesh. This is wholesome. Suza held Mayuri's head tight to her chest. Mayuri was shaking from fear, but she did as she was told and clamped her hands down over her ears. Even so, she could probably still hear the sounds of ripping flesh and shattering bone. This is a fucking demon. This isn't a person. Good God.